I think what works with this approach, it's not magic. It's really they find a way to train to be important and a leader, but in a constructive way. We don't try to change them or to change their needs. We just offer them a way to fulfill their needs that it's accepted and also nice for others.
What can we learn from youth and youth workers? How can we support each other and become a better version of ourselves? This is the Source of Growth podcast, created by a Hungarian NGO, the Academy of Experience. I am Arpad Barnai, the host of the podcast. In this episode, our guest was Katrin Berger, who works as a solution-focused counselor trainer, and she does a very, very inspiring job on the field of anti-bullying and creating safer and more functioning classrooms in Germany. I think as a teacher, trainer, youth worker who works with groups of youth, you will find this episode very concrete and very inspiring. And I think it's easy to adapt into different contexts what she shares from her practice. I think what she does is a good example of working with a wider context, working with the group and community of youngsters and building on the fact that we not only get hurt in relationships and in connection, but we can also heal and become wholer in connections and relationships. I think her approach also helps to work with not only the bullied, but with all the other youngsters in a way that's not labeling and offers them a choice to become a better version of themselves. Hello, Katrin, and thank you very much for coming and accepting the invitation to be on the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
It was a great pleasure to listen to you on the conference that was organized by the Hungarian Prank Prevention Council. And also I've been following your work from before even. I think it is something to be shared more. And my hope is that from our conversation, inspiration can reach people who work in schools, maybe as teachers, maybe as psychologists, or any way of supporting children, and also parents, and maybe youth as well. Maybe it's inspiring for them. I think schools are strange places because you go there to learn and grow, and you go there to meet your peers when you're a child or an adolescent. So it's a kind of interesting, exciting place. And also it can be a place of stress, frustration. So not only easy feelings are there in school, and especially if you combine it with exams, a lot of expectations. You should learn, prepare for your life. So a lot of things could be associated with school environment. If we think about schools, this is just the general idea. And on top of this, we have more and more understanding in recent times about it can be a place of hurt or aggression or bullying. I mean, these are very strong words. And if I talk to teachers or people who work in schools, they are worried about this, and it can be also kind of frustrating for them, or it's my impression that they are good at teaching, they are good at working with this group of kids, and they are not mediators or conflict resolution experts or anti-bullying professionals. So it's seen as something expected from them, something very strange in this safe setting of school. And at the same time, something that's very necessary. Okay, but what do I do if things are not going well in school? I thought about just immediately jumping into this, and meanwhile also asking about how you ended up there. But first, just tell me, what do you do there, and in what role do you do your work?
Before I came to the job I'm in now, I worked for the youth services, like team leader for people working in families, child protection work. And in this role, I experienced sometimes the cooperation or the not cooperation with schools. There were some cases where it went so strange, like meeting in the school, talking about the child, and everybody was talking badly about the behavior of the child. So in the end, the parents were asked, what do you think? What's happening right now? And they were so frustrated, understandable. Yeah, there was only escalation in this. And this was an experience where I said to myself, okay, I have this solution-focused methods, and I worked already self-employed. Beside the main job, I worked self-employed also so young, and So I decided to work fully in the school area because all the children have to go to school. All the parents are involved. Doesn't matter which kind of social background they have. They all go to school. So it's the best way to really to spread solution focus and to make it a good start in life for the pupils. So I'm working full time for the education authority in Bremen. We have a counseling stations, a counseling service. Bremen is a city with 500,000 inhabitants, and we are like 35 counselors responsible for a quarter of Bremen. So it's quite a good setting we have, luxury in a way. And that was the background where I could develop different methods. Not only develop, because some people thought about them earlier, like the approach from Su Yang. She worked with kids who experience bullying, but I had the chance with these resources I have just to try to work with this and also to add some things fitting very well. And as well with the WOW classroom coaching. So it's also not my idea. It was developed by Kim Berg in the 80s, so quite an early approach. But with the context I have, this luxury context, I had the chance in the last like 4 years. I had the chance to make experiments about it, to put it in a way that it's sustainable, that teacher would keep on doing it without me, without somebody from outside, and sometimes even to start it themselves without me. So I'm trying to get it done in a way that nobody from outside is necessary.
Wow.
But it's still in progress. For sure, it needs some help to get into this attitude of solution focus. It sounds always easy, but it's not so easy to keep on going in this way. So I'm not quite sure if it will end like no counseling is needed. I'm not sure, but I try to make it with the lightest touch.
I like it very much. Like quite some things you shared. One thing is that it would be nice if no counseling was needed. We don't have control over whatever is happening outside of school and in other people's lives. So it's good to have some kind of support in case it's needed. And when it's needed, usually it comes up in a shape or form when things are not going well, maybe. So parents are invited or the kids are spoken to. And it can be very stigmatizing, like you're the bad child or you are the parents of the misbehaving child. It's already just starting to imagine it. I feel like my stomach is becoming smaller and smaller. Like, oh, that's not an easy place to be for either side. And what I really appreciate in your work is that you started to experiment to do it differently. Like having the courage to try it in a different way is already a big step. And if I understand right, you work with classes where there's cases of bullying or some kind of aggression, some type of hurt happening in the peer group of the children. You work with the groups and also individually support them. And also you support whole classes with the method you mentioned, WOW, working on what works. I thought to start with this bullying question because if I were a teacher, I would be super curious about, okay, but what do you do with what kind of classes? Who are the children? How old they are? So how does this work? Because it's an ideal setup you mentioned, but still. So it's in Germany, Bremen. Okay, how does this go?
In solution focused thinking, you try to focus on the stuff you want to have instead. So when Su Yang developed something against bullying, she thought, what's the opposite of it? So she was looking for friendship, for cooperation. How can you strengthen friendship and cooperation? So it's interesting. Sometimes parents and pupils say, oh, we are not talking about problems. We are only doing nice things here in this group. So her approach is about creating friendship and cooperation. And it works like this. If there's a child feeling to be bullied, it's not always clear because sometimes parents or the child may say, "Oh, I'm the bullied one," and others would say, "No, he's the one who who bullies others." So it's very difficult to find the truth. And I don't like this separating in groups like this is the bully, this is the victim, and these are the bystanders. That's how it's usually done in this issue. Maybe a parent would call me and say, "Oh, my child is unhappy." I would take the task to make this child happy again. I don't care about who's doing bad things and who's victim. So it's the goal to make it happy again. And yeah, I would tell the parents what I could do, and I need them to agree about it. So I would suggest to offer a support group for this child if the school is also okay with this. If the parents agree, I would go to the school and make it clear with them. Yeah, and then I would just start. I would start with a child, with the unhappy child. Yeah, maybe say something like, "Oh, your parents are worried about you. They think you could be happier in school. Do you think they are right to be worried? Or your teachers are worried. Are they right to be worried about you?" To ask like this helps the children to talk about this topic, because they don't usually they don't like to talk about their problems. But it's easier. Yeah, mother is worried. That's true. And then I would ask, "Oh, is she right to be that to think it this way? Do you also want things to be better for you in school?" And then I mostly I get a yes. I can also ask on a scale 1 to 10, when 10 means I'm very happy in school, best version, and 1 means, oh, very, very little good. I would ask, where are you on the scale? And then I could get an impression if the child is suffering or not. Sometimes I have the case that the child says it's okay. Last week I had one saying everybody was worried, but the child said, "No, I'm at 10." And I asked, "Oh, and your parents? What do you think your parents would say?" And she said, "Oh, maybe 4 or 3." Yeah, so we have these cases, and then it's interesting to decide about the process. But usually, when a child really is unhappy in school, they would say something like 2 or 3. And I would say, "Oh, I can help. You don't need to do anything. You just look for the good things happening. I would like to see you next week." Maybe what I added to Su Young's approach is that I will gather the group afterwards. That's what Su Young also did. But in the end of the talking, I would play a cooperation game with the group. And I would ask the unhappy child if it wants to join this game.
Oh yeah. Oh wait. Can I ask questions? Just some clarification. There's this or individual work with the child who is unhappy, and besides the unhappy child, there's a group work you're talking about, not the whole class, but the support group work.
Yes.
And I would ask, okay, how does this start, and how do you work with them, and especially about the games? How do you approach them first? Because you're a counselor.
Yes.
You're a psychologist.
Oh, like pedagogue.
I mean, like someone coming when things are bad. It could be seen. And I think there must be quite remarkable steps or something you do that they don't see you as such a person. You must do something. What do you do that they are open to share these kind of personal things? Like, okay, I'm not that happy in school. What do you do?
You mean in the beginning when I see the unhappy child? Yeah, I would do something like a bit solution focused small talk, like
What's that?
asking which lesson did you have right now? Do you like this? What do you like most in school? So these kind of questions to get to stick on the resources of the child. So this is something really typical for solution focus, I would say. That you get the other person with a strength, invite them with looking at the resources, invite them to cooperate. They expect to talk about problems. And the only thing is I'm asking, do you want to think that things are better for you? Do you want to be happier in school? So I'm not going into this, who did which behavior to you. This is quite easy. What I also ask the unhappy child, I would say, I can help, but I need some names. Are there kids in your class or around you with whom you have sometimes difficulties? So asking in an open way like this, it doesn't matter who's the bully and who's the victim. To have difficulties is quite something normal. But the child would give me one or two names which are quite important to help this child, because the child might name some kids who try to become something like a leader in class. I'm convinced that children don't want to be mean. They don't want to hurt another kid. And they don't need to get lessons in empathy because they know how it feels. But they very strongly want to have influence and become something like a leader. And it's easier to do it in a destructive way than in a good way. I get these one or two names of these kids, and I would also ask who's around when it happens. These are usually children. The first named ones try to impress, like some they look at how the others are kind of leaders. They might be something like a follower. Not hurting themselves, but maybe also laughing, standing on the side of the kids, the first named kids. And I would ask, are there friends of yours in the class? Sometimes if the bullying went for quite a long time, they say no, they have none. Then I would ask, are there kids with whom you would like to be friend? And I would have names again, sometimes same names as they said already.
Wow, that's interesting.
Can happen. It doesn't matter. Then I have the names for the group. Sometimes I add some names. For example, I had cases where there were only boys on the list, and I wanted to mix it up a bit. So I asked the teacher, "Oh, what fit quite well if we would choose two girls to join?" This could be a reason to make the group a bit bigger. That there's a more mixture.
Can I ask one more?
Yes.
Is that okay? I'm the child. I have sometimes hard times in school. Sometimes I'm not as happy as I wish to be. And then Katrin comes and we have a small talk. And if I hear right, you approach me with questions about open curiosity towards me as a person and also what I like. So something that I like to have in my life. So it's already a positive talk. And also at the same time, you dare to address or open the conversation towards something that I wish to change. And you still leave me a lot of choice in the extent and way how I want to disclose or share, what words I choose or whatnot. And also, you give me permission to name people that are in some way or another are important. Maybe I have hard time with them or they are friends or want to be friends. How do you shift this talk? Like, what do you say about this group? Like, okay, there's a group. What kind of group? So what do you tell to the child?
I would say my job is to help when a child is unhappy in school, and I know it's always working. So I give lots of
That's
hope.
so true.
And
That's a
I
good
say,
job description, by the way. Like, I would love to say this. It's just a good thing to say. Wow.
sometimes if a child is skeptical, I would say, to be honest, I would say mostly it's helping. It might stay the same. It might be, but mostly it's really helping. But I never experienced it getting worse because of this help.
You
Never.
say to the child, this.
If it's skeptical, if it's not, I would just say I'm sure it helps because I really am, and I would say my job is to help in schools. I'm not always there, so I would need some help from persons in the school, and these are kids. But also one thing I also always try to get done is I want one person from the school joining me, just because I want them to learn the approach so that I don't need to come again for another case.
Becoming redundant.
Yes, I really want to have it like this. Sometimes schools, they don't have enough stuff, and in the end, I'm doing it alone or with a colleague of mine, but I really try hard that somebody from the school staff joins me. And I would say I will gather the group right now and just go back to class. This talk with the child takes maybe 10 minutes. It's a very short thing.
You catch them in the break?
No, that's
Or
quite important. You have to look for time frames when it's fitting. You shouldn't take them out of something they love. You should take them out of something where they are happy to be taken.
out of
So no breaks, and maybe you ask the teacher what they really love. Sometimes it's arts, sometimes it's sport. You shouldn't grab them out of this. This child goes back to class, and I immediately would collect the group, not asking. I would just say, or call the names like Anna, Tommy, whatever. Please join me. I need your help. They saw the child I took outside and which came back again. So they imagine, oh, it has to do with, let's call him Tommy. It has to do with him and not being happy, maybe because of teasing or whatever. So they would join me with a mixed feeling. Quite often they experience they will be taken out when something went wrong and they were told off.
Oh yeah, some kind of punishment is coming.
Yes, so they don't have that good expectation, but as soon as they sit in front of me and I will give warm feelings and a good mood and a lightness, I would say, oh, it's wonderful to have you here. So I'm so glad you came, and you're wondering why you are here. So let's explain it. My job is to help when a child is unhappy in school. I cannot do it alone. There's a child you all know, and he needs this help now. At least parents and teacher think so. And then I would say the name of the child. Do you think he needs help or she needs help? And they will nod and say yes. I will say, oh, I know that you are the right ones to help. Really. Did you experience ever to feel unhappy in school? I would ask only very short, like this this question once. I would ask, did you ever feel being unhappy? And they nod and want to tell their stories of unhappiness. Okay, you all know that it's better to feel happy. I don't go into this. So you know Tommy very well, and I need your help as kind of a support group. Do you have ideas? What could help? How could we help him? I'm not here for the whole week. I can only come back next week, but maybe you have small little ideas what could help. And they would bring their ideas. They always love to bring ideas. Something like I could sit next to him, or I could play with him in break time. And then I would ask, oh, wow, such a nice and friendly idea. What does he like? Which kind of games he likes? Oh, he likes catching or hide and seek or what they are doing. And I would take a card, like a moderation card, and write this idea on it and the name of the child. What's your name? So good idea. Do you need help or can you do it on your own? And then I put some other children to it who also vote for helping it. And in the end, they have maybe like 15 or 20 cards with ideas. And I would thank them for their ideas and their help. I would make an appointment for next week to see what went good and what helped. And then I would play a cooperation game in the end where the unhappy child might join. So one child of the group goes to the class and gets the unhappy child, and we would play something where they only can win the game with having everybody included. So I have something like 10 games I always love to play. But I only one game a meeting is fine. But I'm sure teachers have ideas themselves. There are lots of cooperation games, and there are books about it. So it's good just to choose one where they can feel to be good together as a group. And they go back to class then, and I would see them 1 week later again.
The group as well, and the unhappy
child first, and the group again. So same procedure in a way, but sometimes different questions, but like 5 to 10 minutes the unhappy child, 20 minutes the group, and the game in the end.
That short? Wow.
Yeah, so half an hour for one group meeting is enough. And I would also always keep the parents up to date.
Mhm.
I asked the parents before, I asked them to also be interested in good things happening in school. Because if you have a child unhappy in school, you might ask, oh, how was it today? Did somebody tease you? So
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
would ask for the bad things and
Mhm.
you would strengthen the problem thinking with
Mhm.
asking these questions. So I asked the parents, please be interested in what was good today.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if the child tells something bad, you can also ask, okay, it must be difficult for you. How did you manage? So put the spot on how did you manage? What is your competence?
So if I get it right, it can easily happen that if you're unhappy in school, you're teased by others or hurt by others, because of these kind of interactions as well, you can more and more identify with this role of the bullied one, the hurt one. And you also could exclude more options or angles of your personality and life. And to to broaden this perspective for the child and also for the parents, you help them to learn different ways of interaction while having this issue at schools. It's not easy, I guess, for a worrying parent.
Hmm.
I'm worried. I want to ask. I want to make sure that he or she is safe. And still, unwillingly, you bring a lot of focus on this, and not everybody's asking only about this, and they are not
Hmm.
asking about other stuff. So, this is kind of small kind of education, like why you talk to the. I hear this word education, but still, like kind of giving ideas for directions in interaction or
Yeah, yeah.
conversation.
Yes. One person I said once, I heard, I remember, it's like if you have a problem focus, it's like a card, like a pile of cards, and but you don't have it like this spread. You have it.
Mhm.
You only see the first card.
Mhm.
You see only the weak and the suffering card.
Mhm.
And with asking questions, putting the focus on, the children can experience themselves as more than this.
And
Um,
also the solution focused small talk you mentioned is
yes,
also
yes,
something in this
yes.
direction.
It doesn't matter how, for example, when I go into class with so-called bad behavior, it doesn't matter how bad it is. You can always put the focus on how did it calm down in the end? What worked well? In which parts of the whole lesson were good moments and a good cooperation towards the goal? So this is, for me, it's solution focused, not to deny the problem behavior, but to decide for a special focus, because we know that everything we think about, we talk about, will be more clear for us. We will get a
Mhm.
strategy. For example, when I come back to this support group, when I meet the child again, the unhappy child, I would ask, what did you see? What did you experience went well this week? And the child might say something. They always say something.
Mhm.
And I would then ask, how did you manage? So I would not ask him in the role of getting service. I would ask him in the role or her in the role of being creative and being part of the dance, of the interaction dance. So when the child explains himself how he or she managed, this will make it easier to do it again.
What this reminds me of is that if I have things in my life that I don't have control of, I I might become someone who thinks more and more of the world where the control is outside of me. So this outer control habit of mind could become more and more part of my days. And these kind of questions or this kind of curiosity, I really like it because then it's not just about now the others are helping me, but also I'm an active participant in this whole thing. So I have also control
Yes.
partially.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
And this at the same time, the group normally they are doing quite a lot of things and offers another kind of relationship to this child. So
Mhm.
I try to strengthen it from both sides. So if I have the unhappy child, I would ask, how did you manage? For example, I had once a little boy. He was very used to adults, to talk with adults, and he didn't know how to deal with kids. So he always was a bit like telling the teacher that somebody did something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
And
Snitching is.
yes,
Ooh.
yes, this exactly. And I asked him what was good this week, and he said, "Oh, I played in break times with others." And I said, "Wow, you're kidding! How did you manage? What did you play? How did you manage to play?" And then he found out he was observing other kids, what they like and what they don't. So he found out they don't like if he would tell them off or telling it to the teacher.
Mhm.
And he said also he observed that it's good to stick on the rules when they are playing something. So children like to play more with him when he's able to play honest. Children are so clever and smart, and they really he found out his own way of doing half of the interaction. And when I see the group, I would the same. I would ask, what went well this week? I wouldn't take my list from last week asking, oh, did you bring sweets, as you said?
Yeah,
Or did you?
check.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Why not? So
Yeah.
no,
You
not at all.
failed. You failed at something you wanted to do.
Yeah,
And
not
also it would remind them, at least it would remind me of school tests, assessment. Did you manage performance? Wow.
yes. And children are not like this. They sometimes they decide to do something all the time and they forget about it. They do something else that works.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just I think it's very important to highlight because sometimes we are tempted to approach planning in a way that what we think at a certain point in time should be just delivered or completed, and we leave out the very active role of realizing making something. It can be that the children have some ideas, but then with this new mindset they go back to the class and they have even better ideas, and also they change it for a good reason because they say, oh, okay, that was my plan but it's not fitting, so I do something else instead.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
leave room for that.
Yeah, and that reminds me on last week I set up a support group, and the teacher was very worried because they are on a school trip this week, and there was kind a hard case of bullying, and she was afraid that it will escalate. And the group was very happy to help. They had lots of ideas, but one boy said, "Oh, I have the idea that we, as a group, we at the class trip we check which ideas come up there because we don't know how it looks like, what kind of games there are and whatever, and we collect it and we will tell it you afterwards. We make a list what we invented." They are really sweet. I'm mainly doing it at primary schools. That's maybe important to know because in if you have it in class 5 or 6 with the older ones like 11, 12, and the older kids, they wouldn't like to have such a group. So what I'm talking now is mainly working with primary kids. So if I would have a case in high school, I would also work solution focused, but different. Not with such a group, more with talking to the one child and trying to make the class a team building.
Oh, thank you for this. I want to add that there is this saying I like very much. It's coming from trauma-informed approach that we are being hurt in relationships and we can heal in relationships. And now you reminded me to this aspect, the relationship aspect of being hurt. So when we approach bullying or we get worried about bullying, it's actually not about bullying. Actually, we want to have a function in school, a classroom where kids are happy to enter, and also where the teachers feel that okay, I would love to work there, so everyone feels at home or have good relationships, school-like relationships. And because of this unwanted thing happening there, quite big focus goes on to the bullying part. And then this can easily become a conversation which is very individualistic, like talking about the bully or the bullied person. And actually, what it changes happening is between people, and also new things emerging in their relationship. What's possible, and you're just facilitating this change, what they can imagine in a better way within their relationship in the class or among the children. I think it's a very important shift, and also would help me to lead conversations. Okay, what am I curious of, and what are we training? I just wanted to ask you if I speak to youth workers or teachers, it can be that they had some experience of cynicism or those kind of reactions, like when the kids say like, okay, ha, 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 I'm in a support group. So you invite these primary school kids to this group, and you say, okay, I'm happy that you're here, and now this group is about helping this child to become happier. So what is your experience with this emotional safety, cynicism, and how do you create willingness to support this child?
I think it's very important to give children a feeling of I'm at home with myself and I invite you to really to be with me here and to create something. It sounds so simple, but it's not quite. It's quite often I go into a class and I'm not quite sure who's the teacher here, who's hosting this, and children need to have a really a relationship to trust. When I talk with the group or with the individual child, they really they want this. They want me to say wow to their ideas and to collect them, and they want to be seen. My job is to build a bridge that they want to cooperate. Mostly it's like they are not making fun of it. They are really want to be a support group, and other kids of the out of the class, they are asking, oh, we also want to. And sometimes the group, the child is fine again. The child might say, oh, I'm a 10, and the parents say, we think he's good enough, and the teacher says it's good enough. So this would be the reason for me to close the group. But sometimes the group says, oh, we want to stay a group together with the unhappy child. And one group, they said, oh, we just stay to be we keep on going. We will call us agents of friendship, and will care for a friendly culture here. And after 1 year, I had a contact with a social worker of the school, and she said they're still talking about it. It was only 6 meetings, like 6 times half an hour. I think what works with this approach, it's not magic. It's they find a way to train to be important and a leader, but in a constructive way. We don't try to change them or to change their needs. We just offer them a way to fulfill their needs that it's accepted and also nice for others. But there's one very important thing I still have to add. Su Yang also gave some ideas and hints that it's important to strengthen the class as a whole at the same time. And sometimes, if a teacher is stressed by parents or the problem, they are happy to have me coming and kind of fixing the problem. And when I say to have a sustainability, you need to offer something for the whole class, because they will in the future they still want to be important, and they still want to be a team, and they want to learn cooperation. So you need to feed them. And in cases where they don't, it might happen again that they find a child to bully. So it's very important to have both pillars, like the whole class and the individual help.
Yeah, I can imagine it also, like the whole class, the bigger community, and also the teachers can react to the perceived, like, okay, you're the bully, while still the child is in the super group. The wider context, the other people don't know about this. They still react to him or her as a bully, and they don't see the change if they are not involved in this process. Like, yeah, we are also part of it, so it's good if everyone is involved somehow.
But in a way, we have in this group, we have children as kind of representing a special need. So we have some children who really like to lead.
Good.
And we have at least one or two of this group, and we have at least one of two of the more following group, and we have some who are brave enough to say stop. like his friends. The other kids, not who are not in the group, they are quite irritated. Imagine the boss of the class makes friend with the poor little Tom. They are very irritated, and they also have to change.
Oh yeah.
It's like if you are on a boat and the person sitting on the left side, you have to step on the right side, otherwise you would fall into the water. So they are also involved, but you need to do some kind of team building. And sometimes I have this support group, and I would maybe also offer a classroom coaching to have the whole class, to become the whole class looking in the same direction.
And you said you have like few, maximum 6. You mentioned 6 occasions when you meet. So it's not a lot, not a long process, and half an hour meetings.
Yes.
And if I hear this, I'm a teacher somewhere, the question comes naturally, okay, these are short meetings, not for a long time. I hear that the children feel great, but what's the impact? And can you just say a few words about that? What do you see as impact or effects of this process?
I did quite a lot of support groups. I did some documentation, but I didn't have the time to really kind of do research. So Young, she had 50 cases and checked how successful they were. She says 85% of the cases are good enough. So it's solved. There are some percent needing a bit longer, and something like 6% where it's not better but not worse.
And compared to other previous approaches?
I don't know it in numbers, but in the 90s there were quite a lot of approaches because of some bullying cases in Britain, and there were some anti-bullying approaches in different countries. After trying to solve the problem, they checked the success of it, and it was very disappointing because the usual way to deal with bullying is it's still today here also in the city where I am. The usual way is to play theater about bullying, to talk about the different behavior, what is bullying, what we should not do, and all this in order to reduce it. But sometimes it even went worse.
That's an important thing you say, because then there's definitely like a bigger success rate. So this works way better in this case, working with relationships and working on what works. Well, thank you for this. Our time is up now, so unfortunately we have to stop here. I just want to say I'm so grateful for you coming and sharing the details of your work, because I think it makes more likely that other people can get inspired. Thank you very much for coming here. And maybe if you are ready to share more about the WOW or other things you do, maybe later we invite you back if you're happy with it.
Yes, for sure. But maybe as last sentence first, thank you that we were talking here. But I want to remember everybody in Hungary that there's translation of Su Young's book.
Oh, yes.
I don't have it in Hungarian, but you might.
It's here.
Yes, so
it's exactly here.
You can read every step. You can read it. You can also check on YouTube on the Ben Furman's website. You can check Su Young's support group, and she explains the approach in steps and little video clips. Maybe only add what I added, like this cooperation game in the end, for it makes fun. And it's also for the unhappy child a good way to see who's in the group, so to have it more safe.
Connecting in practice.
Thank you very much, Arpad.
Thank you.
See you maybe next time for the WOW.
Definitely, I would love to. And just one thing, if people got curious about you, where can they reach you with what kind of curiosity or request, if you're open to it?
Yes, sure. Yeah, we are kind of connected in an European network, so it's always possible to jump into this. It's for free. It's in English. Everybody can find the dates for it on the Facebook site. It's called Solution Focused in Schools. So you can sign in on this Facebook group and see all the dates for the networking stuff. And you can also look at my website. You might share it up at
Yes.
and just contact me. Share your experience with us, your questions. I'm very happy to hear that that it's spread over the world.
Hey, thank you very much.
So, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you found our work useful and inspiring, you can follow us by clicking on the links in the description. If you would like to support us, you can also do that by giving us feedback, recommending our work to others, or sending donations. As an NGO, we are grateful for any type of support. Take care, live well. We hope to see you again.